Steve.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing just fine, thanks. How about you?
I'm fine, thank you. It's so great to see you again.
Yeah,
No?
yeah, likewise. Likewise. It's great to see you. Yeah,
Thank you, Steve. I ha-
pleasure.
we have to mention that the last time we saw each other was at Portillo Festival.
That's right. Right.
That's right.
Um, that's right. Yeah, which was a incredible experience. I don't know if we should talk about that because I don't know if the all of the people that we know exactly what you put together. There was an incredible experience.
Thank you. And I'm so happy. I'm so thankful that you and Felix, of course, and of course the entire quartet were part of the first festival. And I remember actually the first image of you and Felix when I saw both of you. I screamed.
Yeah.
For happiness,
Right. Yeah, I mean it's just really kind of a surreal thing, because um for us to go to another part of the world, and to see you and to see you there, and then but also to be involved in this incredible festival that you put together. I mean, it's a really wonderful experience and really meaningful for everybody. I think as as an American, primarily going, there's just the first aspect of it being really fun to go someplace new that we don't really know anything about, right? And then to go to Chile, which is just an incredibly beautiful country, and then to work with all of the students there who were, I mean, just wonderful students, and also just really open. I think that was the one of the best things that I kind of cherished about it. It's different than American students. I have to say, just that they're just really open and wanting to learn, and also incredibly enthusiastic. I think that's something that is doesn't always happen here in the States. um so it was just an incredible experience, and something I'll always be grateful for sure.
thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Mm.
Thank you very much. We feel the
Yeah.
same way. No? And of course, me from Chile, for me it was so special to find a way to put these two worlds together that means so much to me. No?
Yeah.
And
Right.
it's interesting
Right.
because while I was studied at the University of Michigan, which is where we met, I always had this urge to get to share with all my friends there what was Chile about. No,
Yeah.
I think
Uh-huh. Yeah.
one feels this like naturally. No, because
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe I mean you as from the United States, you know I was from Chile, but what is Chile? No.
Right. Sure. Yeah, I mean, that was my first time in South America.
Hmm.
So to get that experience, even of that's just by itself was really memorable. But I think it was just, when I was thinking about this the other day, and especially during these times, um, to go to halfway across the world, and we didn't speak the language. Some of the students didn't speak English at all. Some spoke a little bit, and there were students from Chile and Venezuela and Colombia and Brazil. But just to be able to come together and somehow talk about music and share music, and share that joy of making music together, it really just yet shows us again that what we do is really meaningful and special. And you know, to be able to share that with people across the world in that way is, yeah, I mean, it was fantastic. And I hope to, and I feel like I have to go to Patagonia at some point. You know, I just feel like if it has to happen. You know, I you know, just going there. You know, I feel like I need to do that before it's all done at some point. It just seems like a incredible, you know, incredible place that I have to see someday. So
actually, I don't know it myself, so
oh yeah,
yeah,
you can start a festival there.
Well, Steve, thank you so much for being here this morning. And like I always say, I'm so happy to reconnect with all my peers from the University of Michigan. And I remember you, Steven. You were a little younger. I remember as one of the young ones. Yeah.
I suppose that's true. Not anymore, but yeah.
Like tremendously talented and very very new practicing, and I just love that always, no, very inspiring. And but I'm curious to know, Steve, where are you from, and how music came into your life when you started playing violin? Or
Sure. Well, I was born in upstate New York. So a little town on, it's Lake Ontario, and the town is called Oswego, New York. And I started playing violin when I was about 6 years old. My mother was trained as a singer, and she studied choral music education. So for a long time, she taught choral music in the public schools. And my father was not trained in music formally, but he had a wonderful voice, nice kind of baritone bass voice, and he was a Catholic Church cantor, Ukrainian Catholic Church cantor. So music was always kind of around the house, and my brother also. My brother's a cellist, a professional cellist, and he started cello before I started, and so I think at that age, you know, with your siblings, you want to try to imitate, but not exactly do the same thing, and so I think being around him, who when he was getting started had a big influence on me getting started playing the violin. So and yeah, and we moved to Ohio when I was about 8 years old, and that's where we stayed. So I consider myself more from Ohio than New York State. So I guess I consider myself more of a Midwesterner, I guess, in the US. So yeah, that's kind of how I got started. It was always around, you know, in that way. Yeah.
It's interesting because Kim Kaloyaniras was with us.
Oh yeah.
Couple of weekends ago, and she said she also her father was a singer, no?
Oh, that's interesting.
And she said it was very influential to her, especially when she would think about sound and about phrasing, no?
Yeah, and
is that like that for you too?
I would think, I think so. And my, you know, even though my mom was a singer, she was definitely interested in instrumental and chamber music. She had quite a substantial record collection, and so just she would just kind of just play things in the background. You know, this was all, you know, all LPs, you know, and just play things in the background. But she was definitely very interested in instrumental music. I don't think she had any intention of us pursuing music at in any serious way. I think she just wanted it to be somehow part of our lives.
Mhm.
Um, but but no, I think, you know, trying to grasp that kind of vocal sound, and especially the way they can try to connect sound. I think that's definitely something I try to think about. You know, no one can sing. If we can try to be as legato as singers can be, then that's, you know, it's a good step, I think.
Great. So, and then what happens, Steve? Where did you go to study? Tell us, if you can share a little bit.
Sure. Well, so I guess when I started getting a little bit more serious about violin, well, I guess it was maybe in middle school, you know, maybe 11, 12 years old. And probably one of the biggest experiences was being in the Cleveland Orchestra Youth Orchestra.
Mm.
It was a wonderful experience as a young person, you know, playing in Severance Hall where the Cleveland Orchestra plays. Also getting coached by members of the Cleveland Orchestra, but also it was just a fantastic group of young musicians. The people that were in my first violin section, um, some they've gone on to do amazing things. One of my stand partners for a long time was Frank Huang, who's now concertmaster of the New York Philharmonic. And there's just a whole bunch of people in that group who are professional musicians from various places. So I think I was very lucky to be in that environment, and it was a very kind of motivating kind of place to be for a young musician. I think that's something that definitely made an imprint on me. And but I took lessons. I took lessons a little bit at the Cleveland Institute in their prep program for a little while, but it just wasn't the right thing for me. And so I took lessons at the University of Akron, where where I in my town, in my city, and I took lessons from a man named Alan Bodman, and who happened to go to University of Michigan a long time ago. He studied with Paul Makonovitsky at Michigan a long time ago, who was one of Galamian's important students. And my teacher's father, Lyman Bodman, who taught at Michigan State for a long time. So I studied with Alan Bodman for probably 5, maybe 6 years, actually, through my middle school and high school years. And that was something I didn't quite appreciate more until recently. I think just because he was so just kind of methodical, you know, about how he taught me. There was no skipping of steps. You know, you you know, you did row day 1, then 2, then 3, that you just did that, you know, and there was no, you know, and Fiorillo, and you just did the whole, you know, um and I'm really grateful for that now. And something I try to remember with my own students now is just to try to, you know, not skip the steps, just try to make sure they're going in the right direction. But yeah, and that kind of takes it up to kind of Michigan, going to Michigan.
Mm-hmm. At Michigan, you did your undergrad, right?
I did undergrad and master's, so I was there.
Uh-huh.
I was there for 6 years. Yeah, yeah.
Great. I was there for 5.
So you did master's and doctorate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
5 years. Yeah, yeah.
And in the doctorate, once you have all your classes done, you can actually move.
Oh,
You don't need
yes.
to
You don't have to
be
stay
resident
there.
at the
Yeah,
university.
right,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
While I was listening to you, I was thinking about how important is to your environment when you study music,
Yeah,
especially. I would think,
yeah.
while you were talking about Cleveland, no,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
and this is something that I think about all the time. No, living in Chile and of course as a Chilean, no, because like even I think of also Julia and that they get to play at Lincoln Center.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
I'm sure all the great schools are like that, no? And so I'm curious to know about this because this is something that I think about is that because um, in the United States, at least this is something that I caught from the countries that I just love this idea of in Chile we say like honest, no, I'm doing my best here, no,
Hmm.
and I
Hmm.
feel that the whole system helps for your development, no, and sometimes in from my country we look up into that, you know, it's like,
Right.
oh, this person is from the United States, or this person is from Europe, no, so it's like so it's interesting for me to and very inspiring for me to realize that um and I love the idea of that everyone is creating something special
Hmm.
in a place that you meant to be, no,
Yeah. Hmm.
I don't know if I'm explaining correctly, but so like believe in what you're doing and trust where you will move along, no.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think that's important, you know, pretty much for anybody. And I think, um, yeah, I totally agree with you that what happens in your environment, um, especially at that kind of formative age is so important. And I was really lucky, you know, to be involved in that program, and also just where I happen to live, you know, because those programs don't exist everywhere, and they're not as vibrant, or they're not as they're not as exciting, or they're not as fully developed as they were in Cleveland, you know. And so it's something um, I feel very lucky for, and I think it also just, you know, helped me prepare for, you know, my studies at Michigan. Is like, oh, okay, I know what I'm, to some extent, I know what I'm doing in orchestra. You know, I've I've been part of a good program. You know, I've been listening a certain way with in ensemble playing and that kind of thing. So yeah, it was, I think, something that was really formative, and then just being used to hearing, really strong playing around me. I wanted to keep up. I didn't want to be I didn't want to be the weak link, in the section, or something like that. I think so yeah, I mean, it's something I'm really grateful for sure.
Mhm. And tell me, Steve, how was your time at Michigan, University of Michigan? Um,
I mean, I loved it. I mean, I just I loved it. I'm so, like, I made the right decision, to go there. I think it was definitely the right place for me. I think the best thing about it for me was that I found it really inspiring and motivating from the faculty, from my student colleagues. I just felt like I was learning so much all the time. But I also felt it was very supportive at the
mm,
at the same time. So I think it was, it just seemed like really the right mix of what I needed. And I think I was also really lucky in that I was able to kind of just coach and learn from so many different people there. Um, and I don't know if that's how it is at other schools, just because, but I just felt like I was able to take advantage of all of the expertise that was, Mr. Jennings, Cantor, and Martin Katz, and all of the other piano faculty, and wind faculty, and going or playing in conducting lab with Ken. I just felt like there was, it didn't seem like there were a lot of kind of boundaries in
mm,
terms of things, and I don't know if that was intentional on their part or not, but I just feel like I was just kind of constantly learning and enjoying myself. And so when it came time to, I auditioned at other places for master's degrees, and I thought a lot about going. I was like, no, I think I'm just enjoying it. Well, I think I'm just gonna stay, and um, yeah, yeah.
mhm.
For me, I loved it, and
Yeah,
yeah,
I felt the same way, and it's interesting that somehow it was tremendously inspiring. I guess it was competitive too. I don't know, because I really felt that way. Didn't feel that, but it was very supportive, and I think the energy around all of us was so loving. Don't you think?
yeah, and
Like I would
it
learn from,
was,
from you.
yeah,
Like we
and
all learn from each other. No.
yeah, for sure, and I think there was a lot of, um, you know, I do think there was some competitive spirit in a good way, but I think there was also the idea of celebrating somebody else's success. When somebody won the competition, or or if when we were getting older and somebody got a job, it's like, this is, it almost felt like a community success, and I just remember being so excited for people, who are going out into the real world and being successful. And um, yeah, I do think there was, you wanted to keep up with everybody, um, but also the idea of kind of celebrating each other's success. And I think that was really, really great.
Yeah. I was remembering that for some reason I thought, Steve, I mean, your quartet, I remember, was fantastic. And all young musicians, I remember. And I recall that you did a lot of chamber music, but now I'm realizing while you were speaking that you also won the concerto competition with Shostakovich, right?
I did, yes, I did. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It was
I remember that.
a real thrill,
Absolutely.
for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, incredible. Steve, remember that we actually played together?
I do.
We solo together, remember?
I do. The Schnittke. Yeah,
Schnittke,
yeah,
exactly. Concerto Grosso.
yeah. I have not played it since that time. I hope I'll play it again sometime because it's a really fascinating piece, a really good piece, really really interesting piece, and challenging for even the orchestra, orchestra parts, just to put that together. But no, I remember that well. I also I remember working hard on that, because it was really difficult.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
And what we have to, if we can put a context to the people that are listening to us, is this was through Brave New Works,
right.
which is an ensemble that still exists, but it was created during our time at University of Michigan with all different musicians from the school. And so we had the opportunity to be part of the projects that they constantly did,
Yeah.
to promote new works. And the idea actually at the time was to play pieces that were not older than 50 years.
Right. Right.
In this case, Schnitke was probably not part of that, but they with the audience and with people, new works that were written by students of the university and also teachers.
Hmm. That's right. And there would be, I think, even at that stage of Brave New Works, which was very at the early stages, that there were some call for scores in which people from even different places would send scores, and we would consider playing some of their music. But yeah, I mean, that was one of the, I mean, that's basically how I got into playing contemporary music, was through Brave New Works, and through um I didn't realize that I liked it until until really with Brave New Works. And that's just another way in which um my ears and my um became opened to something that I didn't realize that I enjoyed. But
Mhm.
yeah, I remember that well. I think it was also in typical Brave New Works fashion. In the early days, it was like a 4-hour concert. um I think we were last, and I think we probably didn't start playing until like 10:30 or or something like that. um but yeah, no, that was so super fun. I Yeah, it's a really fun piece. Maybe we'll get to do it again sometime.
Who knows?
Yeah,
That would be
yeah.
awesome, actually.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
for me, and I'm curious about you, but playing new music is so fascinating because you don't have any judgment on how the piece should sound,
Hmm.
no?
Yeah.
And so you bring ideas, uh, or you listen to others people ideas while you are rehearsing, and you create something from scratch. It's just incredible. Isn't it for you like that too?
Definitely. I think that's one of the best. Oops, I think that's one of the best best things about it is that there is not, it's not rooted in any kind of tradition of any kind. So you definitely you have more license, I think, and I think it's somewhat liberating as a player.
Mm.
You know, you're not as concerned about whether this is fitting into a certain box or not. You know, is it appropriate style, or is it I think that's one of the things I really enjoy about it. Although somebody, I can't remember who it was, said, you know, you should play new music like old music, and old music like new music. You know, in the sense that you treat the new music with a sense of kind of reverence and the, you know, detail and the study that it requires, but then with old music you want to bring it to kind of life as much as you can, you know. But yeah, that's definitely something that I've really enjoyed in terms of learning contemporary music and studying it. It's quite liberating, I think, overall.
Yeah, yeah. So Steve, tell us what happened after Michigan. What was your path?
Sure. So I at some point during Michigan, during my time, maybe it was toward the end of my undergraduate or maybe during my master's, and trying to think of what I wanted to do. I think I was having a little hard time figuring that out, because I had always loved chamber music, and you know, as you said, I'd been part of a lot of groups and some really serious groups trying to kind of get off the ground and kind of punch through a little bit. But you know, it's always hard with string quartets. But during my time at Michigan, I had started teaching. Paul had me teach some of his high school students a little bit, and I had a few private students of my own, and I was starting to enjoy that more. And I also just liked the kind of the flexibility that academic life might provide, in terms of being able to teach, and also just be able to kind of do the things that I want to do, you know, have a community, you know, kind of to be around, and to kind of build projects how I wanted to. So I decided to get a doctorate, because I kind of figured that that's where I was headed, I think. And so I decided to go to Rutgers University for my doctorate, which is in New Jersey, a little bit outside of New York City, and just south of the city. And I went there pretty much just because I wanted to. It was close to New York. I feel like that was something I wanted to maybe try to pursue, going into New York at some point. But I knew I couldn't do that directly right away. You know, I didn't have money to live in New York. I wasn't going to be working. You know, it was. So I thought, well, you know, maybe I can be south, and maybe eventually I can kind of work my way in a little bit. So I went to Rutgers and I studied with, and the real reason I wanted to go there was to study with Arnold Steinhardt, who was the first violinist of the Guarneri Quartet, and which was a really wonderful experience. Lot different than Paul, you know, in many ways, but it was, I think, I think it was the right thing to do at the right time, just in terms of my development, I think, as a player and as a musician. So I was there for 3 years in Rutgers. Just, I'm sure, program pretty kind of like U of M in many ways, I think, in terms of doctorate. And then, but I was coming to the end of my 3 years, and yet again, I was like, what am I going to do now? You know, I'm out of school. You know, I can't just keep doing
Schooling.
this. Yeah, I just even though I loved it, you know. I think that's another reason I wanted to be in academia, is just I really liked school, you know. I think there are some people who are really ready to be done with school, and you know, I don't want these classes anymore. I really liked it, you know. So I was, but you know, doctorates, they're called the terminal degrees. You know, you can't, there's nothing left after that. So I was really lucky at this point, because it was late April, very late April, and who should call me but Chris Kim. And Chris Kim said, and he was at Cornell, and Chris gave me a call and said, you know, our violin teacher just decided to, you know, step down from their post, and we're going to have an opening for a violin position for Cornell, and you know, would you be interested? And I said, sure, you know, yeah, I'd be really interested in that, you know. And he's like, well, we need you to come up soon to do an interview and an audition. And I was like, okay. I was just thinking to myself, well, you know, I'm kind of busy with my finals and whatnot. You know, it was like, can I maybe come in 2 weeks or something? He's like, no, we need you to come tomorrow. we need you to get in the car tomorrow, because, you know, I'm not, you know, what do I know? I'm not thinking clearly at all. But it was really at the end of their semester, and the students would be leaving, and they needed to get somebody on campus who could do a master class before the students would leave campus. So anyway, so you know, I drove to Ithaca, you know, the next day, and I was lucky enough to get that position, and so I was there on a 1-year position at Cornell, and that kind of got me started in teaching, and I was living between New York City and Ithaca that year, so I was starting to play in a quartet in New York by that point, and I was kind of going between Ithaca and New York. It was a really great, it was busy year, but really fun, and I was really enjoying both of those things. So yeah, I was really fortunate to get that call from Chris. Really fortunate, you know. I think that's something I think I try to, you know, tell my students, you know, it's that the people you go to school with, I mean, these are really your future colleagues in life. And I was just so, you know, so fortunate that that worked out.
It's amazing what you're saying, because that's something that I miss so much here in at home. No, my friends from the university. No.
Yeah. Right.
At first, it was not so easy to me, because I didn't know people really well here, so I didn't know with whom to play. you
Right.
know.
Right.
After
Yeah.
a few years, you start getting to know people, but
Yeah.
up to today, I still miss everyone. No,
I know.
musically.
Yeah. I know. I mean, I just, we all get involved in what we have to do. And then, I mean, I don't see, um, hardly, it's rare when I get to see, people. I mean, luckily I see Felix a lot. But people like Chris and Katri and all of the kind of Brave New Works folks, we've just sort of we've had to do our own thing for a while. And yeah, it's yeah, we don't get to spend enough time together for sure.
Mhm. And Steve, remember that we also used to play together at Iris Chamber Orchestra.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you still
Yeah.
doing that?
I still do, although not as much anymore. No, and that was another thing that was just so, um just as a young person, a young professional trying to, kind of build experience and build your resume. um I mean, that was such a wonderful experience. I mean, there were so many Michigan people that ended up doing it, but I also, you got to meet a lot of people from a lot of different places, as well. Yeah, that's something I'll always be grateful to Michael, for. um and for a long time, Iris was a big part of my life. When I was living in New York, this was probably 2009 or so, or no, it would have been earlier than that. Even when I was a doctoral student at Rutgers, at that time, I mean, Iris was having like 8 concerts a year. And so I mean, I would be going surely once a month, October through May, to Memphis. Uh, and I stayed at the same host family. I still do when I go. So
Oh.
so these are people that have been putting me up. Um, I mean, like since 2003,
Mhm.
like 17 years they've been putting me up, um, which is a long time. But I'm very close to them now. And so if I go to Memphis for something else, I'll let them know I'm in town and we'll get together, something like that. But that's, yeah, Iris is a special place, and that's really where I met Felix.
Mhm.
I had met Carolyn, years before, but that's where I first met Felix. And so yeah.
It's interesting because when I had a conversation with Felix, I
Hmm.
assumed that you both knew each other from Michigan, but he said no.
Oh
He
no,
had
yeah, I
already
think
left.
I think we just missed each other. Yeah, I think so. He had probably just finished. So I missed him there. I met Carolyn at, Strings in the Mountains, which was Yitzhak Schotten's festival.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so, I got to meet her there, and, um, played with her there. And it was really cool. Like, a lot of people, I was just like, wow, here's this Michigan graduate, and she's playing in the Pittsburgh Symphony, and like, how neat is that? And, um, but then I sort of reconnected with them, through Iris, and by that point they had already been in Nashville for a while. Um, but yeah, I got to know them well in Iris. Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
so tell us, Steve, now how did you ended up in Nashville with the Blair String Quartet?
Sure. Well, so after my time in New York, I was I was kind of really enjoying my time in New York. It was a really wonderful experience for me, and I mean, it was almost like another phase of my education. I think because you know, I was working and playing there, but I was still getting coachings a lot from a lot of wonderful musicians and playing with a lot of great people. But you know, I was still getting coachings like from the Emerson guys and the like Brentanos um, and you know, looking back at things like that was such a important part of my development, I think, as well. But then yeah, and it was fun, you know, because I was like making a living a little bit, but there was just getting to this point where, well, I don't know how much of a living I'm going to make here, because it's like, and I was also just you know, you're just on the subways all the time going from um you know, from this part of New York to the other part of New York, and you know, a rehearsal here, a rehearsal there, and um so I was coming to the point where I was deciding that I would need, I think I would need a kind of a full-time teaching position. And so um, I, in 2009, I started teaching at Ohio University. Um, and I taught there for 4 years along with Steve Huang. I'm sure you remember
Yeah,
Steve.
yeah, yeah.
So he was the orchestra director there. So I taught there for 4 years, and then I taught for 1 year at Bowling Green State University, which is um, a Northwest Ohio, and not far from Ann Arbor. So that was kind of nice when I was there, just to be kind of closer to Ann Arbor. You know, I got to play with Khatri a few times during that year. So that was kind of fun. But it was during that 1 year at Bowling Green that the Blair Quartet opening and the Vanderbilt opening became available. And the summer previously, Felix had just sort of kind of let me know, just, you know, this is going to be open, and I think you should think about it. I think, you know, it's something you might enjoy, and I think you should maybe think about applying. And so I did, even though I had just gotten to Bowling Green. I thought it was maybe something I should try for, and I was lucky enough to make it through the process. And um, so this is now I think it's my 7th year here at Vanderbilt,
Wow.
which is kind of hard to, it's kind of strange to think about. It doesn't feel like it's been that long, but I guess it has.
Mhm.
So yeah,
That's amazing.
um, yeah.
And I could imagine it, it can be very demanding, no, in terms of repertoire and uh, most than anything,
Yeah,
repertoire, yeah.
yeah. I think that's definitely something that when I first got here, I don't know that I was struggling with that, but it was I sort of became aware quickly, you know, that just sort of the demand of always playing those parts all the time, and wanting, because you know, our teaching loads are pretty substantial here, so trying to balance that all, and having enough practice time to you know, make sure everything's kind of in good shape all the time. um I think I that was definitely something I think I needed to, you know, get better at when I first arrived, just kind of managing all of the repertoire. I think I've gotten better at that in some respects. But I also learned that I think, like, my summers need to be better planned, just for having that time to sort of go through everything, and you know, sort of make sure everything's in really good shape before the year begins, the academic year begins, just because, you know, practicing doesn't always, you know, you don't have that really consistent practice time every day that you would want. So I think I've learned, I have a strategy that I think works a little better now than I did before. But no, it's wonderful to get to work on that repertoire, and that's something I'm really really grateful for.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's so great that what you were talking about, having a strategy to
Yeah,
to your study, you know.
yeah,
Uh, as a conductor, we do the same thing. No, we have to plan advance to make sure that um, and to feel comfortable about it. No.
yeah, exactly. I think that's super important, and yeah, just sort of mapping out the time for yourself, and also like setting deadlines. You know, it's and comfortable deadlines, you know, for
And
yourself.
Steve, did any of your teachers like give you advice on this? Like, did they make you think about this? Because actually, that's something that I do mention to the young musicians. No, you need to get to know yourself. How much time you need to learn a piece or a concerto, to memorize it. No, like
Yeah,
it, it should be part of our training, no, to make us aware of these things.
you know, that's I, yeah, I don't think I would have even known to have asked that when I was a student. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it just didn't sort of occur to me. I do recall though, I remember when I had to play the Shostakovich concerto, and I was getting pretty tired by the end, you know, when I was, and so I remember passing Andy Jennings in the hallway, um, and I asked him, you know, Mr. Jennings, uh, I'm just having trouble getting through the Shostakovich. You know, I don't know what to do. I'm getting really tired, and he sort of looked at me and said, okay, well, you know, typical Andy way, just sort of thought for a moment and said, well, you play it once and then immediately play it again, and then and just walked away. Um, and he had a good point. You know, it's like you have to prepare yourself to be able, you know, you should be able to do it twice without feeling, you know, um, and you know, sort of raising your threshold for what you can do. And you know, that always stuck with me, because you know, it was always very, you know, he always left me thinking about something new for sure, and helpful in that way. But you know, going back to what you said, I mean, that is something I try to help my students with now. You know, when they're planning recitals and that kind of thing, you know, it's like, you know, there's really no reason this should be a really stressful experience. You know, it should be fun. You know, it should be fun and enjoyable, and you're thinking about expression, and so trying to take that aspect of cramming, you know, out of the equation, and kind of setting those deadlines for yourself. Yeah, it's been really helpful to me, and I think I try to help them with that. They don't always listen, but
Well, they do at some point.
sometimes after the fact, they you know, yes,
Well, I
yeah,
guess that's also a learning process, no?
for
When you
sure.
realize, oops, I didn't have enough time to learn this
Right,
music.
right.
Aha.
Right. And yeah, and of course those are the lessons it's when you learn it by yourself. I think that's when you really learn it. Like no one can really tell you. You have to sort of experience it for yourself. I think that's probably how we best learn anyway, you know.
Well, remember when I was learning the Brahms violin concerto, Paul Cantor, because I guess I will get tired easily, no? So Paul Cantor asked me, "Are you exercising?" And I looked at him, it's like, "What is that?" You know?
Right.
So, but he made me realize, like, like you need to train your body too, no?
Right.
I mean, there's so many things that we need to think about that I guess at a certain age we don't pay attention, no?
Exactly.
Until somebody says something or not, or you just start figuring it out for yourself, no?
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're trying to train yourself to, you need to be capable of doing more than what it requires. I think that's the main thing,
Exactly.
and yeah, but ultimately we figure these things out one way or another. I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, we are almost done with the time. It's almost an hour.
Oh wow, it's flown by.
Yeah. Like I'm so thankful that you could have this conversation with me, and get to know you a
Well,
little better. No.
yeah. Well, thank you. It's just great to see you, and I'm glad that even though I'm glad I just saw you like a year ago, and I'm glad even though just a year ago, I'm glad we could do this, and I think it's great that you've done this during this time. I think feeling the sense of community is really important. So thanks for doing it.
Yeah, well, thank you. Like I always mentioned, this is something that I always wanted to do, not to put these two worlds together that means so much to me,
Yeah.
and I guess this was the time to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember Chad. Chad was a composer at the University of Michigan, and
Yeah. Chad
he said us,
Hughes. Yeah.
Chad Hughes,
Yeah.
and he says two magnificent people who just so happen to be great musicians.
Oh, that's
Thank you,
nice. Hi,
Chad.
Chad. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you're well.
Yeah, I did um, have I did share with Chad many times at school. A great human being.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so thank
For
you, Chad,
sure.
for being with us
Yeah.
this morning.
Yeah.
And,
Thanks, Chad.
and thank you everyone for joining us this morning. Thank you so much for Steve for being with us.
My pleasure.
And
Anytime.
please let's make sure that we stay in touch, and anything that you want to just remember that in this part of the world you have someone that any crazy ideas you can
That's
do
it.
it.
That's great. That's great. I love it. Yeah. Well, I hope I will see you. I hope I'll see you in person in not too long. Somehow somewhere.
Yes. Yes. So thank you, Steve, and please say hello to the whole quartet.
I
We
will.
love
I
all
will.
of you, and we really had a wonderful experience with all of you at Portillo. So
Thank you. I will.
thank you very
I will
much.
tell them for sure. For sure.
Okay. And
All right.
thanks
Thanks,
everyone
Alejandra.
for joining us this morning. Bye bye, and see you next Sunday. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.